Hello everyone, here's something different for today. Last week I was lucky enough to receive not one but two beautiful coloring books by the artist Jenny Luan. She had contacted me to ask if I would be interested in reviewing her anime Doodle girls coloring books, and I thought it would be a lot of fun to actually do so. Both Volume 1 and Volume 2 have 29 beautiful hand-drawn anime girl faces. Volume 1 contains princesses, a witch, elves, mermaids, and it also has the 12 zodiac signs. At the beginning of each book, you will find some instructions on what to use to color these coloring books and how. There's particularly a list of Jenny's personal favorite tools and supplies. She also added in Volume 1 a self-portrait anime style, which I thought was a cute touch. A great feature with these books is that there's only one drawing per page. So if you use a medium like alcohol-based marker, for instance, that will go right through your page, it's okay because there is no coloring or no drawing on the other side of the page, so you're not ruining anything, and you get to color each and every one of them. Also, under each drawing, there's a line to put the name of the colorist. Jenny is a wonderful artist. She does a lot of detailed work with colored pencils. She's very good at making realistic drawings with her pencils. And you can see her sense of details in these two books. Just look at all the intricate details everywhere. It's amazing, and it's a lot of fun to color. At the end of the books, there are a few extra drawings. They're kind of like previews for her upcoming coloring books. Volume 2 also has a variety of characters, like an evil queen, an alien, a hippie, a Viking, an angel, and many more. Here again you can see the intricacy of her drawings and her wild imagination. And here again we have some previews for her other books. There's one that I particularly like, and I actually ended up coloring it. You'll see it later on in the video. I can't wait for this book to come out. It's going to be full of owls. There's a very smart addition at the end of Volume 2. There are a few extra blank pages that you can use either to test your colors or as a bleeder page. In other words, you can use those pages to try out your supplies, your markers or your pencils, whatever you're going to use, to see how well they work on this paper, if they're going to bleed through or if there's enough grain for your colored pencils. And also, if you're going to use some alcohol-based markers, which will most likely going to bleed through the page, you can use a couple of those extra pages to put underneath your coloring page so that the markers you're using will not bleed through to your next coloring page. So before I get started with the coloring, I took 2 of those pages and I tested a variety of mediums. Most of them worked really well. The alcohol-based markers that I tried did bleed through, but it's to be expected with them. Water-based markers are fine. They bled through a tiny little bit, but I think that if you're adding too many layers, they will bleed through more, and that will probably damage the paper. And as far as colored pencils are concerned, those worked very well. There's a little bit of grain to this paper, so layering shouldn't be a problem. And these are all the supplies that I tried. Copic marker, a Promarker, a Faber-Castell Pitt marker, a Crayola marker, a Kuretake Zig real color marker, a Polychromos colored pencil, and a Prismacolor colored pencil. Next, because I really wanted to use alcohol-based markers for my first coloring, I tried to blend them to see how well they worked on this paper. I'm happy to say they worked very well, but they bled like crazy, and they bled through those 2 pages and onto my table. I don't think it's going to be a problem for me though, because I'm not going to use that many layers anyway. And finally, because again I wanted to color one of those drawings with the Faber-Castell Pitt markers, I tried to blend them also on this paper. I didn't think it went so well. You can see the streaks of the markers, and I think with too many layers the paper will be damaged. But I will try anyway, and we'll see what happens. I ended up coloring 3 pages, one with Promarkers, one with the Faber-Castell Pitt markers, and one with Polychromos color pencils. Each time I slowed down the video at the very beginning to show you how I used each medium. The Promarkers are alcohol-based markers, so I used 2 of those bleeder pages under my coloring page, just in case. I really liked how the ink didn't dry too fast. It gave me enough time to blend the colors very well, and I didn't see any streaks on the paper. With alcohol markers, if you want your coloring to be uniform, you need to be pretty quick and color all the areas before one part of it starts drying. That way you will avoid the streaking. You can always go over some areas again to keep them wet. It will help you blend the colors better. Also, you need to keep in mind that the colors, while they're wet, they look a bit darker than when they're dry. So it's always a good idea to keep a color chart next to you. Here, for instance, you can use a piece of the test color paper, the bleeder paper that came in with this coloring book, and try all your colors on it. Wait till they're dry, and then you'll see what they will look like. The colors will look different depending on the kind of paper you're using. So if you use a different kind of paper for your color chart, it might not be exactly what it will look like on the paper you're using. If you go over the line with your marker and put some color where you didn't want any, don't panic. There's a way to fix this. Just take a colorless blender and rub it over that area, and it's going to erase part of it. Not all of it, but at least part of it. So now that you've seen how to apply the marker so that you don't leave any streaks on the paper, I'm going to speed up the video so that we can go a little bit faster, because it's a very long video already, and you can see all the other colors I'm adding to this beautiful drawing. The Pitt markers didn't work as well as I expected on this paper. They were quite streaky and looked more like Crayola markers. But to color in small areas, like the small details in this drawing, they worked well enough. So I didn't try to do any blending, and I only colored in the shapes. I only had a hard time for the face, which is a much bigger area, and it was very streaky. But all in all, I still had a good time using the Pitt markers. Here you can see my color chart. Whenever I have a new box of markers or colored pencils or any supplies that has colors, I make a color chart so that I can easily find the colors that I need. When using a coloring book, I think a color chart is pretty handy because it gives you a visual of all the colors available. So it can help inspire you to choose the colors that you're gonna use. Here again you can see my color chart. This one is for my Polychromos colored pencils. I really like this drawing and I knew I wanted to color it the first time I saw it. But I didn't really know which colors to use, so I took out my handy color chart and it inspired me, and you'll see what happened. To use your colored pencils to their fullest, you need to make sure that you're applying very light strokes. This will allow you to build layers and create all the different effects that you want. For the eyes, I would like them to look nice and round and 3D. So I will first color them with the base color, and I will apply another layer all around it to make the color a bit darker, and so it'll show as a shadow. And as I'm working it, I will add more and more layers, always light, where I want my colors to be darker. Keep in mind that working with colored pencils is a very slow process. Be patient and always use light strokes, and the smaller the better also. This is another reason why I wanted this part to be in real time and not sped up, so that you can see how slow it is. Once I got my yellow as dark as possible, I used a darker pencil to darken the shadows even more. And I must have repeated this process like 3 or 4 times. I think I probably used 4 different yellows to darken the shadows a bit more each time. I also used a kneaded eraser to remove a little bit of the pigment on the lightest areas to give it a better shine. So I had to speed up the video, obviously, because it's, like I said, it's a very slow process. It must have taken me, I don't know, it took me several hours to finish the whole owl. So in this video, you will only see the eyes and the feathers around the eyes, and then you'll see the result at the very end. I use this same technique throughout the drawing, just again being very slow and using as little pressure on the pencils as possible. Also, for highlights, you can use a white pencil and burnish the whitest areas, which means you actually there apply more pressure so that it blends the colors and lighten them, and it will give you a nice 3D effect. If I had to sum up my coloring experience, I would have to use only one word: is fun. I really enjoyed using the colored pencils, although it took forever, but that's what happens when you use colored pencils. But my favorite medium to use was the alcohol-based markers. They were very easy to blend, and the colors were nice and bright. Even the other side of the page actually looked pretty cool. All in all, I'd say these coloring books are great for the whole family. Now, my 12-year-old daughter, she loves to draw mangas. She's a really good artist, actually, and she decided to color with me. And she started with the Crayola markers, which she actually enjoyed. But then she went to the Promarkers, and she just fell in love. And she spent the whole weekend coloring and coloring and coloring, and she had a blast too. So all those you didn't see me coloring in this video are hers. This one actually is one of hers as well, and you can see she blended the colors really well, and she did all sorts of shadows and highlights. She really went all out. This one was with Crayola markers as well as the next couple ones, which they actually look good too, I have to say. I'll put all of Jenny Luan's links in the description, so go check out her art and buy her books if you like them.
I loved it and I had a lot of fun.